Hi people. So today we'll talk about profit and loss. See, in profit and loss, you just need to be crystal clear about cost price, mark price, and selling price. So let's start. See this cost price. See, okay, in profit and loss, there is just this one transaction. There are two people, the seller and the buyer. So, if we start from, the seller's point of view, so this cost price right here, see, there's, a product that's going to be sold. So how that, seller gets that product, how much investment he does on that product, they could be like, I would say two cases. One would be that the seller goes to a wholesaler and buys the product, or the seller, invests some money, and the output is some product. So eventually the crux is that the seller would have invested some amount of money, and that would be called the cost price. Let's say, after everything, the seller, invested rupees 100. So that's the cost price, that for that particular product rupees 100 were invested. So from the seller's side, he had to invest 100 rupees in whatever form. So that is the price of that product, the initial cost price of that product. So from there we move on to this mark price. So the seller would add some amount of money, for his, let's say, because if he has invested 100 rupees, he wouldn't want it to sell it at 100 rupees only. He would want that he earns some money out of it, so he would mark up the price. So let's say we take the example that he marks up it at plus 20%. So from 100 rupee, he would take the mark price as rupees 120. So he increased the price by 20%. So that increase is called as the markup. And the final price then is called the mark price. And from there, to lure the customers, okay, so there would be the product and a tag. That tag would say 120 rupees. So you have 100 rupees as the investment or the cost price of the product, and then the seller marked it up, and it's
And
now
then to
saying
lure
the customers, he gives a discount. So let's say he gives a discount of 10%, and then we will reach the selling price. In this scenario, the selling price would be 108 rupees. So now we are clear with what the cost price is, what the mark price is, and what the selling price is. Now let's analyze it even more. Okay, so now we've analyzed the situation, and as you can see, the selling price is 108 rupees and the cost price is 100 rupees. So, this that seller is actually earning some money. So that seller would be happy, right? He'd be, having a profit. So when we go from 100 rupees cost price to 108 rupees selling price, there would be a profit, right? Because that seller would be earning some money. So this profit is equal to selling price minus the cost price. SP equals the selling price, CP means the cost price. See, now you can actually understand if there was some turn of events and the cost price was, let's say, 100 and the selling price was 95, maybe because of the markup and the discount, eventually the selling price was less than the cost price. In such a situation, you can understand that there would be a loss. In that situation, the loss would be calculated as the CP minus the selling price. So now you're clear when you would say SP minus CP, because that would be when there's a profit. And when there would be a loss, you would say cost price minus selling price. Basically, you need a positive term, right? So yeah. So this profit that you can now calculate, SP minus CP, it would be 108 minus 100, that is 8 rupees, right? And see, this 20%, it was the percentage change. This, minus 10%, it was again a percent change. So you can say that this, this profit, it's also a percentage change. Like you can calculate what would be the profit percentage. So the profit percentage, it would be SP minus CP. This, this profit divided by the initial cost price, right? So we talk about, way to actually calculate this easily. But for the time being, this is how we calculated this: the profit divided by the initial
We had
cost
our
price.
CP as 100, our SP as 108, and our CP as 100 rupees.
So okay, so in this formula, we'd multiply this by 100. We have to calculate the percentage. So this would be 8 by 100 into 100. So we have a 8% profit. So in this very simple example, we calculated that the profit percentage would be 8%. Now I would just, like to mention one, thing that in real life, the sellers, they actually use a percentage called the margin percentage. But for the, for if we talk about our exams from that point of view, this is not that important. But in that scene, they actually calculate the percentage from SP to CP, that they would have the profit divided by the selling price into 100, and they will calculate that percentage change. Again, not important from exam point of view, but something you should have known. So now we are clear about how we are going to calculate that profit, how we are going to calculate that profit, percentage. So now let's talk about multipliers now. Okay, so next we'll talk about multiplier. See, it's a quantity that's, it's a fraction actually, and it's equal to the denominator being the cost price and the numerator being the selling price. So M is equal to SP divided by CP. So, we know what this SP is, what this CP is. We know the SP, we know the CP. So we can write it like this, right? Like we can say MP divided by CP into MP, okay, SP divided by MP. So, if we write this as this, so this actually means that we are, changing this initial single multiplier to two multipliers. I would say this is M1 and this is M2. So we are saying our final multiplier is the product of two multipliers. And the first multiplier was because of the markup, and the second one was because of the discount. Let's take this example. So, in this we have the actual values with us, right? So we have that our MP is 120, CP is 100, and SP is 108. So we have 120 divided by 100 into 108 divided by 120. And of course this MP, this 120 cancels out, because that's what we did. We, multiplied and divided by MP. So, when we'll use the actual values, it will get cancelled out and we'd be left with 108 by 100. So how this is, important or significant is because with the help of this fraction, we can, reach that final profit percentage. There's a simple formula for that. You can simply say that if you say R is your profit percentage, R is your profit percentage, and you find out this capital M, this multiplier M. In our case, it's 108 by 100. So you have 1 plus R upon 100 is equal to M. This is the relation that you need to know. And how, I'll just derive it out for you why this is. See, our MP, I'm sorry, this M, this multiplier M was, so if you divide, I'm sorry, if you subtract 1, if you subtract 1 from both sides, M minus 1 is equal to upon Cp minus 1, again in turn Sp minus Cp divided by Cp, and this is our profit. This term is the profit, and when you multiply this by 100 you will get that profit percentage, right? This Sp minus Cp upon Cp is equal to M minus 1, right? So M minus 1 is equal to Sp minus Cp upon Cp, and this term is actually equal to R divided by 100, because this R is the profit percentage, right? The profit percentage was equal to Sp minus Cp upon Cp. Let me just say it again. M is equal to Sp upon Cp. M minus 1 is equal to Sp upon Cp minus 1. So we have M minus 1 is equal to Sp minus Cp upon Cp. And we know that our profit percentage R is equal to Sp minus Cp upon Cp multiplied by 100, right? So now this term is equal to R upon 100. So we can now just simply say that M minus 1 is equal to R upon 100. So M minus 1 is equal to R upon 100, or we can get here that 1 plus R upon 100 is equal to M. So this was that little derivation, that how we can say that from this multiplier capital M we can get to the profit R, because if you just minus 1 from it you get your Sp minus Cp upon Cp, which is nothing but that profit percentage divided by 100, and you can have this final mathematical equation that 1 plus R upon 100 is equal to M, right? So now let's talk why, if you already have that, you have figured out 100, 120 and 108, why you actually need to know all of these concepts. So let's get to it then. Okay, so why we need to, understand all of this is because, we know that we have our CP to MP to SP, and we know the percentages that there's a 20% change for the markup, and then a minus 10% change for the discount. So we know that the final M that we need to calculate that will give us the profit percentage, that equals multiplication of two multipliers, the markup multiplier and the discount multiplier. And we if I told you that from M you can get your percentage R, then in the same way from that percentage R you can get to the M, right, the multiplier M. So if you know that you have a 20% percent change, this M and R relation I have told you for the final profit multiplier, the final profit percentage. Same way you can think about this R could even be the markup percent change, and this M would be the multiplier for markup. So if we have 20% change for the markup, that M1 would be 1 plus 20% upon 100. I mean this percent sign is not really required. This 20 upon 100. This R percent, the 20 here. So 1 plus 20 upon 100. So we have our 120 by 100. Okay, so now in the same fashion we can calculate M2 as well.
M2 would be 1 plus, because that discount percentage was minus 10%, so that r percent was actually minus 10%, so r here was minus 10. So in M2 we would have 1 plus minus 10 upon 100, and we would have 1 minus 10 upon 100, we would have 90 upon 100, right? So now we have both of our multipliers, m1 and m2. So this capital M that we need to calculate now would be 120 upon 100 multiplied by 90 upon 100. And eventually when you'll be used to all of these, you would know, like you would have this tool with
percentages to
you of
multipliers
really quick. So if you know that it's 20%, you would say okay, the multiplier is 6 by 5. So this is something you'll eventually get a hang of. But right now we'll just stick to complete mathematical formulations, that this m1 would be 120 by 100, m2 minus 10% would be 90 by 100. So if now cancel it out and just solve these two fractions, so again you will have 108 by 100. See, the same thing even here, using the actual values of CP as 100 and MP as 120 and SP as 108, we got that capital M as 108 by 100. Even here we got that capital M as 108 by 100. And now we can from this profit multiplier, we can have that R percent that will tell us the profit percentage. So here we'll have that R as okay, I know, so 108 by 100 minus 1, and this whole multiplied by 100. So we would have that R percent, that final profit percentage, as 8%. And we had calculated it before as well, using this, when we actually derived it out what this M actually means. So we got that 108 by 100, we got that percentage as R percent, we got that percentage as 8%. And even when we used the very basic formula, we got that percentage of 8%. So this was the very basic starting introductory example. Now let's move on to another example. All right. Okay, so I've only jotted down the main points of the question. See, it is being told that there's a milkman and he mixed water and milk in the ratio 2 is to 3, and the milk actually costed the milkman 3 rupees per liter, and water is of course free, and he sold 50 liters. After mixing and doing everything, eventually he sold 50 liters at the rate that he would be selling was 4 rupees per liter. So this is all the information we have, and we have to find out the profit percentage. All right. So let's start with the very basic, way we know, and then we'll solve it using multipliers. So we know. Let's find out the cost price. And again, if you just see this question, it's very simple. We are not even bothering about any mark. Okay, there's a markup. Yes, there's no discount right here. There's a fraud involved, and there is a markup here as well. See, in the simplicity, you can see that the milk costed 3 rupees per liter. And if you just even ignore the fraud right here, that there's no mixing, and if we can understand that from 3 rupees to 4 rupees, this right here is the markup, and his profit percentage would increase even more because of this fraud right here. So okay, so initially let's now find out the CP, and we'll have to analyze the question even more. For this cost price, we'll have to take into consideration the entire situation. So we have 50 liters in total, and we know that there's a mixing involved, that water to milk is 2 is to 3, right? So you can maybe just, just by looking at it, you can understand that I took these values and I can simply say that water is 20 liters and milk is 30 liters. Or you can, actually calculate it the technical way, that okay, W by M is given as 2 by 3. So the total amount of water plus milk would be 5x, 2x, water is, milk is 3x, and 5x is equal to 50. So x right here is 10, and so we have water as 20 and milk as 30. Although it was visible, because I took such values, but in any way you can, do this mathematics. So now you know that water is 20 liters and milk is 30 liters, right? And again, calculating the cost price, it is given that milk costed the seller, the milkman, 3 rupees per liter. And he had milk, the amount of milk was 30 liters. So 30 liters multiplied by 3 rupees per liter. And for the water, it was free. So there's a zero right here. And so the cost price is 90 rupees. And now for, finding the selling price, the selling price would be, it's very evident, it's really simple, that he sold, 50 liters at 4 rupees per liter. So 50 liters at 4 rupees per liter. See, the customer, the person, who actually bought that, let's say there was just one customer and that customer bought 50 liters. So for him, the only information is that I have to pay 4 rupees and I am getting 50 liters. So I am giving 200 rupees to that milkman. So see that, what, if you see from the milkman's angle, I only had to invest 90 rupees, you know, for this whole transaction. I only invested 90 rupees and I got 200 rupees. So this is the scenario right here. And from there we have to find, okay, let's just find the profit. So the profit here is 110 rupees. And now if you go to the profit percentage, that's okay, SP minus CP upon CP, or profit upon CP multiplied by 100, that would give you the profit percentage, and that would be 110 divided by 90 into 100. So, formulating the final value of this, there's a really rather simple way than just mathematical calculations. Okay, so our question had boiled down to, just calculating this value, and that would be the answer. And I would want all of you viewers to, do one thing for me, that you have to remember from 1 upon 1, from 1 upon 1, 1 upon 2, 1 upon 3 to 1 upon 30, all of their percentage equivalent. So, if I say 1 upon 1, that means that it is 100%. If I say half, then it is 50%. And if I say 1 by 3, it is 33.33%. And when I say this, or when I say that, remember the values, this fraction to percentage equivalent, this is for this right here. this 110 upon 90 into 100, this fraction, either you manually calculate 110 upon 90 into 100, that would give you, a value that would be your profit percentage, or just have this fraction, this 1110 by 90, and you'd understand, after I'll complete, how you can just find the final percentage from this fraction to a value. So for that, you need, and don't be confused, don't confuse this with the multiplier. The multiplier m was a different thing, this is a different thing. So in this situation, actually, I talked about it. So in this case, the
200 by
multiplier
90.
m was, and from there we reached r as 110 by 9 into 100. And now I'm telling you that you can do something about this 110 by 90 as well. So I'm saying that the capital M was 200 by 9, and from there you reached, R as 110 by 90 into 100. And no, we have not calculated how this capital M came out to be 200 by 90 yet, but that's the thing, now you have calculated the SP upon CP. Kind of, you understand the SP by CP would be 200 by 90, although we have, still right now just stayed in the basic form, but I'm just telling you the answer would be that the capital M would come out to be 200 by 90, and from there, you will get to R, which would be 110 by 90 into 100. See, the case in point was that do not confuse this fraction with multiplier m. Deviating from the original question, I am trying to explain how, when even if you use the way of multipliers and reach such capital M and then find a final R, or in this sense, when you use the basic sense and basic calculations. So in any of these two ways, you will finally reach such a situation when you'll have to perform this calculation, that in our situation 110 divided by 90 into 100. And for this I am telling you to learn all of this, that how to convert 1 upon 1, 1 upon 2, 1 upon 3 to 1 upon 30. So let's get to it. So in when you remember all of these, 1 upon 9, this 1 upon 9, it translates to 11.11 percentage. And 1 upon 11, it will translate to 09.09 percentage. So in our question, so this value, we can say this 110 by 90 or 11 by 9. So this 11 by 9 is equal to 9 plus 2 by 9, right? 11 is equal to 9 plus 2. And from there we have 1 plus 2 into 1 by 9, right? So what was this one? This one was 100%, right? So we now have 100% plus 2 times 11.11%. So our final answer now would be 122.22%. So, if you will just calculate 110 by 90 into 100, that's the value you will get, 122.22. So, instead of manually calculating, this is a trick from where you can get to your final answer, you know, in a much quicker way. And now, as I said, we have done this question using the basic sense of, cost price and selling price. Now, let's do this question using multipliers. All right, so I've just written this question again, and doing it, using multipliers, this, value, you will see that it's not, really relevant when you just have to calculate the profit percentage. So, in this, if you just analyze this question again, so we had that initially we had, mixing of water and milk in the ratio 2 is to 3. For the milkman, water cost nothing and milk cost 3 rupees per liter. And eventually, that milkman sold it for 4 rupees per liter. So, if, you just think about, if you just think about this markup, you know what the SP and what the CP would have been if there was no fraud. So markup is that increase in the price, from that initial 100 rupees to when we went to 120 rupees, that plus 20%, that was the markup, right? That how much you increase the price of that product. So in this question as well, when we do not take into consideration the fraud, what we have is that milk, it was initially 3 rupees and now it's 4 rupees. And since okay, now for a maybe kind of a shortcut, or you can just say a sense of understanding, that this markup would actually be greater than 1, because in this scenario the percentage was increasing. So for example, I can like give you mathematical proof for that also. Like, if we had this situation, right? So the markup multiplier was 120 by 100, and the multiplier for discount was, maybe say this, or just say this, using the percentage 90 by 100, right? So this was less than 1 and this was greater than 1, because this multiplier is actually increasing the profit. So obviously, if you use such a multiplier that's greater than 1, then only your SP upon CP needs to be greater than 1 for profit. And when you're giving a discount, you're decreasing your overall profit, so it's less than 1. So we know that the multiplier of markup would be greater than 1 and the multiplier for discount would be less than 1. Or for anything that's going to create a loss, it's going to be less than 1, and anything that's going to create profit, it's going to be greater than 1. So when we see these two terms, you know that initially the cost of milk was 3 rupees per liter and now it's 4 rupees per liter, and we have these two values 4 and 3, obviously the markup would be 4 divided by 3 and not the other way around. So you are increasing that cost. You can say it this way, that you have 3 rupees per liter, and from that now you're giving 4 rupees per liter, and this is your selling price, I'm sorry, this is your cost price and this is your mark price. That's the tag you're attaching, that you're saying that it will be 4 rupees per liter. So your markup will be 4 by 3. And just you can always reassure, have you written it down correctly by these two simple concepts, that for profit, for a particular event thing that's going to eventually give profit, it's going to be greater than 1, and for something that's going to give you loss, it's going to be less than 1. So now we have our markup multiplier. The m, because of markup, would be 4 by 3. And now if we talk about the fraud, the mixing, that water is to milk is 2 is to 3. And if you have to calculate a multiply right here, first thing is that just think of the situation. If the milkman is doing such a fraud, he's gaining more profit. So first point that should come to your mind is that this multiplier is going to be greater than 1, right? And now the next thing is, just think of these as units. So you have 2 units of water and 3 units of milk, right? And for this markup, we are not bothering about anything else. We just know that, okay, in total we have 5 units of quantity, and we have 3 units of milk, 2 units of water. So, and what is the what is this multiplier? It's eventually SP upon CP, right? If for the first multiplier, when we found out the multiplier for markup, we said that there's no mixing, and for this multiplier, now we are going to say that there's no markup. The only thing that happened is that this fraud happened. All right. So now
The
we'll say
CP
that
would
what
be
would this the units of milk that the milkman actually has invested in. You can say that this milk costed 1 rupee. Each unit was for rupee 1, and you have 5 units, and you have 2 units of water that costed rupee 0. So the milkman actually gave only 3 rupees, but there was 5 units, right? There was this milk that was okay weighing or whatever, it was being measured as 5 liters, and 1 rupee per liter. So the selling price was 5 because there was 5 units of milk. I'm sorry, there was 3 units of milk that the milkman actually had to invest. He had given 3 rupee, and in return he got 5 rupee because of 5 units. Again, in this we are saying that there is no markup. To be a little more technical, if we said that the milk was 3 rupees per liter, so we would say that the CP for that milkman was 3 units, 3 liters into 3 rupees. And because there's no markup, the SP would be 5 units into 3 rupees. Because right here I'm saying there's no markup, and we get this 5 by 3. And that's how if you don't exactly talk about the liters and the rupees, you just say that okay, there's no markup, so this is 1, this milk is 1, this 5 units is 1, this is 0. So the denominator would have CP as 3, and SP, the numerator, would be 5. And again, to be even just so that you just click it, we just have these two quantities: 3 units of milk and 5 units of total that's being sold. So you have 5 and 3, and since you know that the multiplier would be greater than 1, so you just have two options: 3 by 5 or 5 by 3. So obviously it will be 5 by 3 because it's a profit case, right? So when now you have two markups, I'm sorry, now you have two multipliers. The first multiplier when you think about the markup, and the second multiplier when you think about the mixing fraud. So the final multiplier would be m because of markup multiplied by m because of the fraud of. So the markup multiplier was 4 by 3, and the mixing multiplier was 5 by 3, right? So again, your final multiplier was 20 by 9. So it comes out to be 20 by 9, right? And you can correlate with the previous exam, the previous way of basic, that way when you solved it using the basic CP and SP knowledge, you had reached to something like this only, because from here if I say we have to find the R, that R would come out to be 20 upon 9 minus 1 whole multiplied by 100, and this would be 11 upon 9 into 100. And when we had that basic way, we had 110 by 90, and that's the same thing, and we know how to continue from here, right? So I hope this was helpful.